I'm Ira Joy, and welcome to On Courage, a podcast that explores a fundamental virtue for each one of us, no matter our backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives. After a career setback, I wrestled deeply with self-doubt and fear, eventually realizing that in order to rebuild my confidence, I had to start by rediscovering my courage. I've been reading books and listening to experts, but I figured I needed to be surrounding myself with courageous people too. And that's why I'm here with you as you listen today, hopefully on board my mission to learn from creative people who have harnessed the power of courage to find success in their careers and fulfillment in their lives. This is a podcast on courage for all those who, like me, long to grow a little more courageous each and every day. Hi, and welcome to the very first interview episode of the On Courage podcast. I'm excited to share this conversation I had with Ezra May Aringay, who's not only the editor and producer of this show, but also my younger sister. It was a pleasure chatting with her, as it always is, and to learn more about her creative journey and aspirations. She provides a lot of unique insights and perspectives on what courage means to her, how we learn to harness it and develop a positive mindset to overcome our challenges. And we wrap up the episode in true Ezra May fashion, you'll find out why, with a fun movie recommendation. So without further ado, enjoy the episode and happy listening. Ezra May, welcome to On Courage.
Hi, Ira. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for taking the time to join me in this first episode of my new podcast project. I know so much about you already, as people will gather, that you are my sister and the editor and producer of this very podcast. But I'd like to start by giving you the opportunity to introduce yourself and just give us a bit of background about who you are and what you do.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Ezra May and I'm 29 years old. I am a creative at heart. I'm currently working full-time, not in my creative field, but yes, a choice that I'm sure we'll explore further on in this podcast. And I love entertainment. I think that's been my whole life, just loving any kind of form of entertainment, whether it's live, film, theater, music, anything and everything. And I want to work in that space for the rest of my life, pretty much.
You know, you mentioned there that your current full-time job isn't related to your actual creative dreams, but can you give us a bit of an idea of why you chose that path for this specific season in your life?
I kind of fell into it. So I basically work for the Victorian government, and I have been for like the past decade of my life, because I had started working part-time for my local library. So it kind of just went on from there. So the job portal that you have when you're working at a library, it just leads you to other things that are part of that same sector. So I guess it's just your typical, desk job, administrative kind of roles that you can find. And so ever since I started like working at the library, and the opportunities I've got have just stemmed on from that. I haven't kind of ventured out, and I never went into hospitality or retail. I've just kind of stayed in that sector, hoping that the jobs would become more creative, but they kind of haven't. They kind of just sort of stay in office and kind of your just everyday 9-to-5 work.
Of course, it does provide you that stability to then do all of your other creative projects outside of that job. So tell us more about that side of things, because I'm of the belief that we're not solely defined by the paid work that we do. We are so much more. We are rich and beautiful, complex humans. So who's Ezra May outside of that 9-to-5 government job?
So I think it's funny because I've always worked in government related jobs. I never wanted them to become creative because I felt like that would hinder my creativity on the side. So when it, the minute I go home or when I have my weekends, I'm always creating. I'm either singing or writing or acting or dancing or one of those things in my own time, and sort of doing it on my own terms and kind of absorbing what I love entertainment wise. Because I had volunteered for creative things. I've worked on some projects and I've just realized I kind of like being in control of what I'm creating rather than helping someone else's vision come true, or being part of a team where the original creation isn't like from my brain. And I haven't really loved it. So I'd rather go to a job that's almost mindless in a way, where I can kind of just do the thing, it's routine, and then daydream like in all my other spare time. So yeah.
I completely agree with that because I was the same, even though I was in the creative industry in my full-time, previous full-time experience, but you don't get to really follow through your own visions because you are working for a
Mm-hmm.
company that has their own creative vision. So even if you're surrounded by, the creative, ideas, they're not your own. So I
Yes,
completely
exactly.
understand that. So in terms of your own your goals and aspirations, what kind of creative things do you like to dabble in, and what are you working on at the moment?
What am I working on? Oh gosh, I feel like I am doing way too many things at once and I don't have a sole focus at the moment. For a while, I was writing reviews for theatre shows. I was helping my friend. She ran this theatre blog, and I was going to see shows, and then I was writing. I was having some interviews for some of them with the cast members, the performers, and then other times I would just write a review, like my opinions on the show. But I guess I didn't really stick with that because I don't know. I just felt like I couldn't enjoy stuff for what it was. I had to be analytical and I had to um, really do a lot of research, and it made it less fun for me. So I guess I don't write as much, but I do like to verbally express my opinions on shows and movies and things like that. So I have a YouTube channel where I was doing that quite a bit. But my YouTube channel's kind of gone a bit all over the place because again, overwhelmed by choice. I was, dabbling into the beauty world for a little bit. I was, yeah, doing movie reviews. I was doing like album reactions and things like that. So I guess I really haven't found my groove. It's still entertainment related, but in terms of like what I dabble in, I think it's a little bit of everything. Like I've tried to write a song, I've tried to record a song, I've tried to compose something on an instrument. I like to teach myself dances. Yeah, so I guess it's a little bit of everything.
I always say that, when you're a creative person, you are multifaceted. There's just no going around that you rarely do you come across a creative person that has one specific interest. Like there's always something else, that they're doing on the side. Like a dancer always, has some other full outlet of, artistry, whether they paint or draw or cook or whatever it is. So I think I would say that's very relatable to any creatives listening today. But if we think back to your childhood and your adolescence, can you recall any significant moments or experiences that ignited your passion for creativity and for entertainment?
Yeah, so I think growing up, I just lucky enough to grow up in a very musical household. I think the TV was always on. There was always music playing, and of course, growing up with you and watching you sing and dance and play dress up. That I guess that was maybe the earliest indicator that I loved performing or dressing up, or um, yeah, imagining that I'm like a star and things like that. Um, and maybe it's part of the Filipino culture as well, just sort of singing all the time and being around people who are singing. And at a young age, well, mum put me in calisthenics. So we had like sort of end of year concerts and little performances here and there. And just being on stage, looking out at people and making mistakes and making people laugh. I guess I really enjoyed that. And so, yeah, even at home, I would put on little shows in the lounge room and just be comedic and play dress up. There's no, I wouldn't say there's like a significant moment, but I guess the first time I ever saw a musical was like, I just wanted to be there. I remember sitting in the middle of the aisle and just like watching and being fascinated for those 2 hours and just being like, oh, I love everything about this. I love this sort of heightened version of reality. And yeah, so there's like the first theatre show, there was the first concert I went to, the first like acoustic gig. There was always a first something that I attended where I'm like, yes, that's where I want to be, or that's all I want to do is watch this and be a part of this thing.
And did you, from those experiences, what then, influenced your decisions to kind of try a different approach and pursue more stability in government roles as opposed to, pursuing your love for performing?
I don't think I ever thought of it in terms of a career, as if I'm going to pursue that life. I'm going to become a stage performer. For me, because it's so embedded in my my upbringing, I just thought like, well, I'm obviously going to sing for the rest of my life. I'm never going to stop doing that. Like that's going to, whether I turn out to be an ice skater or whatever it is, I'm going to be singing as well. And I think it just, when I started sort of high school, and having all those different subjects, and some performers, it becomes like their one track mind. Like they think, I've got to go to stage school, I've got to get the singing lessons, I've got to do all that stuff in order to pursue this thing. But for me, I just wanted to learn everything. So I wanted to do my best in every single subject and try to absorb as much as I can. And yes, I had piano lessons on the side, and I was like teaching myself guitar and things like that. But it was never like I was going to abandon everything else just so I could do performing, if that makes sense. So me sort of ending up working full time in an admin office, it wasn't because I had like given up on performing. It's like I still perform. It was just more, I'd gone to school, I'd gotten a degree, and that was like the job that was going to be stable, and I could make money, but at the same time, get the holidays off and have the weekends off, and that's when I can do my performing and my singing. So yeah, it was interesting because I did have friends that like dropped out early and went to theatre school, but it was never on my mind to do that. Even I still felt like I could still perform even if I didn't do it that way. It's strange. Yeah,
that's such a unique perspective, and actually I haven't heard you say it sort of in that way, and I think it's really refreshing because it feels to me that your love for entertainment and performance and creativity is just it's in your blood, that it's not attached to those markers of what success looks like as a working performer. So I think that's actually quite a beautiful way to think about it, because you just said it before, and I'm sure that's going to be a soundbite, but you said that I'm going to sing for the rest of my life. And I love that, because often people with that dream, when they do face rejection, trying to pursue a career as a singer, they become so discouraged that they give up on it. Whereas for you, it seems like you're setting up your life where there's no chance of you giving up on it, because it's a part of you. And I just think that's really special. So thanks for sharing that with me.
No worries.
We live in a culture that, as I alluded to just then, that really values success, conventional, societal, a way that, everyone sees it, whether you're on TV or you're making a certain amount of money or you have some notoriety. But we rarely discuss the processes that lead to success. We rarely discuss the failure that's inevitable on the road to success. So I want to know, what's your experience with failure? And can you shed some light on the challenges you've faced to get to the place that you are today?
I didn't take a gap year. Not that that was a failure, but because I just kept going and going and going, I didn't really have time to think about what I really wanted. I just kind of went for like the first thing I could grab. And I think it's because there was an overwhelming amount of choices out there, like in terms of going to uni. So obviously I didn't like go for the theatre route. And I kind of focused, something I actually meant to say before was that my high school wasn't particularly an art school. So I think that definitely had an influence on me not pursuing art outside of that. But we had a little bit of a music, I guess, section of the school that was sort of doing okay. So I pursued piano, but the piano grades, unfortunately, because music is not like, it's like a lower priority subject, it all scaled down. So even though I felt like I did really, really well at my VCE piano, it scaled down, and I definitely felt like a failure. Like the score I got was not high enough to get into the uni that I wanted, or the course that I wanted to get into. And I just thought, well, if that's like my best instrument and I can't even get that, then forget about it. So I kind of did a detour and I did media, which is exactly what you did. Because I just felt like, oh, well, it's the score I got and I can get into that. So it was a failure in a way. I did have hope at that time. But then I kind of like justified it. You know, the school was too far away. The grades are scaled down. That's not my fault, you know. But yeah, when I look back on it, I definitely was upset at the time.
Do you remember how you actually kind of dealt with those feelings and the steps you took to continue forward?
Yeah. Well, I was lucky enough to have a music teacher who was very supportive. Like, we did try a few things. We wrote a couple of letters and we tried to fight for a spot, but ultimately it didn't work out. And I think I mean, I was upset, but then I think I just talked myself out of it. It was just kind of that, you know, you write yourself a narrative, like, oh, it's not meant to be, whatever. Like, I didn't want to play classical piano anyway. Like, I'm going to go do my pop piano pieces again. And yeah, media can open up more doors, and I was interested in that as well. And I guess maybe that was the pro of being interested in a lot of things at once. Like, some people like only have the one choice, and some people are plagued by choice. So I think I am the latter. Yeah, I think I just really talked myself out of it. And now that I look back on it, maybe I did give up a little bit, but I didn't want to tell myself that at the time. Yeah.
I guess from my perspective, if I may, is that I don't necessarily see you giving it up, because I know that it didn't stop you from playing piano. If anything, it further gave you drive just to keep pursuing that as a passion on the side. I mean, I remember going with you to Alan's Music, browsing through the sheet music section to buy scores of musical theatre shows. So it never stopped you. Your passion for piano and music never wavered. It was more perhaps just letting go of the fact that you didn't get into that specific music degree, right?
Yep.
Which, you know, I think it all worked out as it was meant to be, because you even told me, I think recently, that you just don't see yourself, you know, being a musician in, you know, a classical musician, or, you know, playing for an orchestra. Like, that's just not you, right?
No. Yeah. I don't see it now, but I think if I had gone to that school and I went through all of that, I would have like pushed myself to make sure I ended up in an orchestra or something.
What do you think it is that is your greatest motivator to pursue certain creative goals? Is it when things just kind of work out, or you kind of tend to follow your feeling at the time?
My greatest motivator for pursuing creative goal and ambition, at first I thought it was like making my family proud, which is like a typical thing. I think that, you know, we all, especially like growing up really close to my family, I just wanted to do something that would make me happy, but will also make my family happy, and provide in the sense of like, you know, that feeling of typical success, how it looks, also financial success, you know, something that I enjoy that also makes money. But the more I thought about it, I don't actually think that's it. I think my greatest motivator for pursuing like something like a goal, like a creative goal that I want to pursue, is really just sharing my opinion, or no, sharing my love for something, and getting someone else to feel that same love that I have for it. And so I guess in a blanket way, it is sort of human connection, finding my tribe. But it really is just, if I could just give one other person that feeling that like this song gave me, or this movie gave me, and like by talking passionately about it, that's all I want. Like I live for just the one comment that was like, oh, I checked out this movie and it changed my life. So I really think it's that. I just want to share the same feeling that something gives me with someone else.
Yeah.
So I think that is my motivator, because if I can change someone's life by recommending a movie, then that's pretty cool.
Yes,
Yeah.
if anyone listening needs movie recommendations or show recommendations, you know who to contact. Ezra's your girl. But I love that. I think that in many ways is just it's an example of what it means to share joy and multiply joy, which I think perfectly exemplifies who you are, because you bring light into every room that you enter, and you've got that fervor and that vibrancy in spirit. So I love that. So yeah, so you are doing that. So you said with your other creative projects, YouTube was one of those focus areas. Is that
Yep.
how you channel a lot of that desire to share and to engage with others about the stuff that you love?
Yes, at the moment it is, yeah, sort of the main thing where the main platform where I feel like I can do that, apart from just doing it in everyday life, talking to people. Yeah, I've tried a lot of different things, but YouTube is definitely the one that always stays in the back of my mind, where I'm like, how can I, create more of the content that I want to create? Like I'm on a pause at the moment because I feel like for a while I was giving into trends and trying to figure out like what's a popular video and how can I mold my videos to kind of be like that so that people would search it. But I'm really just re-strategizing, and going back to the start, because I think when I first started my YouTube, I was really just talk about whatever I want. Like I don't care what's trending, what's not. But then because a lot of those videos got like 10 views, like not that I really cared about that, but then I realized like it is important. If no one's watching it, then it's not going to be found. Then I sort of gave in a little bit, but now I'm going back to my roots, because I think my unique videos are the ones that I enjoy making the most, because I know that they're just really out there and like probably no one has done them yet. But they're the ones that I feel like the most comfortable filming. I just get excited about talking about some obscure thing from the 50s or whatever. Where I feel like I can just find at least one person who will understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of I think a lot of creators struggle with that balance, because I do know how easy it is to get sucked into the trends and feeling like you will only gain traction with an audience if you give them what they want. And there is a bit of that, you have to meet a demand. But at the same time, from that personal point of view, you do have to enjoy the videos you're creating, right? So I
Yeah.
guess it does take courage to be able to beat your own drum and kind of move away. I mean, we've talked about other creators that are still creating the same content for how many years in a row. They're still same thing. Not, and look, if they're enjoying it, there's no problem. But I think for you, it's more than that. It's more than just getting views. It's really
Yeah.
making true connections.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's part of why I, settled for a full-time job that was completely opposite to any sort of creativity, because I didn't want the money to sort of affect the content that I'm creating. I didn't want it to be part of that. I didn't like one view equals $1. I didn't want to think that way. Because that just stresses me out, and then I'd just give up anyway, like trying to film.
Pivoting a little bit, I guess I want to know from you, if you think back at your, experiences in, in employment, in your education, or, in your other things, what is something that you're most proud of about yourself, or that you've done in your life that typically wouldn't make it on a resume? And as I said, it goes back to this idea of, seeing or not seeing success in that sort of conventional lens, but more so on a personal, personal point of view. What's your source of pride about the person you've become and what you've achieved that, doesn't need to, appear anywhere online or be used as a kind of way to pitch who you are?
I think I'm proud of my ability to self-learn. I think I've been in, because I've chosen the most random jobs on the planet. Like I kind of just I just fall into jobs. I do improvise a lot sometimes. Like I've been in rooms where I have no idea what anyone's talking about, and I've just been able to adapt. And I think that with practice you get better at it. But yeah, I definitely I'm proud of my ability to stand in a room where I'm completely like unlike anyone there, in terms of expertise or knowledge, and just to be able to blend in and just like to pick up cues and to observe, and then like do all my own research later and be able to sort of come back the next day and have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. So I guess, yeah, research skills that I've, maybe gained through like my high school studies, my uni, because I did a theory-based degree, which of course is helpful. I think I'm happy with my ability to adapt to any kind of situation. And I'm also, I like to think of, like, I have my moments, but I like to think that I'm a pretty optimistic person. And I generally have a positive outlook on things. Like, under pressure, like, even if things get really hard, I just try to be positive. Or even if I'm, like, not positive, I am good at sort of helping other people be positive, like hyping someone else. Like, if my colleague is stressing out and, like, giving them pep talks on the spot. Again, it could just, like, come naturally, or it could be something I've learned over time with improv. So I guess in terms of acting, I'm using some acting skills there, because
Yeah.
just sort of improvising and like making the situation seem like better than it actually is. As I was thinking about that the other day, like at work last week, it was like really tough times, but I was just like, no, we got this. Like, we just have to do this. This is like, I act really practical, even if I don't like necessarily know how to find a solution. I act like, I can work it out. So yeah, I guess adapting and observing and just kind of being okay with whatever it is.
Yeah. It's you display a lot of, I think, mental strength with that. You're able to shift
Awesome.
your mind according to the situation, which I just think is, well, you inspire me on that front. So what do you think then are some, I mean, probably touched on a few already, but what are other specific and practical lessons that you've learned that enable you to take real action on your goals? Because we see a lot of, inspiration out there about success and achieving your dreams and going for it. But I want to get down to the more specifics. Like, what are some tangible things you have done and you've learned to do that actually help you, move towards the life that you want?
Yeah, I think one of the big ones that I've been learning a lot, especially this year, is having this internal shut off button. So when you're getting too deep into something, like, okay, the most obvious one is sort of scrolling through social media for hours. Just having that moment where you're like, stop, just turn it off. Turn off the technology, stop listening to other people's opinions, sit with yourself in silence for just 1 minute, and sort of training yourself to do that, because we get so caught up in the most trivial things. And I think too much of anything is bad. Like, it's like watching too many shows in a row, or eating too much food at once. Having that internal button that's like, no, just turn it off now, because you don't need to hear any more of that. You don't need to clutter your mind even more. And so yeah, that naturally leads into decluttering and reorganizing, re-strategizing. I still like the physical journal method. Actually writing down on a piece of paper. And it's funny, I bought so many journals over the years, but I actually just like getting a scrap piece of paper and folding it into 4 and then like writing a list on it. It feels really like tangible and like intentional when you've got the pen in your hand. So yeah, if you can have this like internal button of shutting off every once in a while to the outside world, and then kind of listen to your own thoughts. That's something that I've been trying to do lately. It's hard, but I think I like to pray. And so prayer is just this form of, speaking to yourself in a kind way, and giving yourself some time to breathe. When you're feeling those emotions, I think you have to tell somebody. You have to talk about it. You have to express it. Otherwise, it lives on inside your head and it goes in a circle, and then you bottle it all up. Maybe I think honesty is the best, because no one can actually help you unless you tell them. So maybe when you're feeling it, you should just say it. You say, sorry, I feel anxious about this. Can I have some time to think about it, to process it, and then maybe remove yourself from the situation?
Yeah.
because I think being direct is just the best thing to do,
That's
because
good.
people might think it's weird, they might think it's awkward or something, but you've told them exactly how you're feeling. So
Yeah.
it's about, I guess, removing the shame first of all, and then just vocalizing what it is.
Yes.
Because I personally would rather like people be direct with me than to sort of pretend things in front of me and then like act a certain way afterwards.
Yeah. That's yes. I think that's so insightful and, you know, challenging though, because it does take courage to be honest, to be vulnerable, to articulate how you're feeling in that moment, because our, you know, the default, I know for me, is we try to mask how we really feel because we worry about what other people think and how they're perceiving us in moments where we feel so weak, right, where we feel so inferior. So yeah, that is a big one, but I think if you can learn to tap into that, that's the best start, being honest with how you feel. And I guess, you know, I asked that question to you because I've been lucky that I have, I suppose, a strategy, or like, you know, I've got something that backs me up in those moments, and that's you. So I think I'm lucky in that regard because, you know, I can draw upon your courage. And I think this idea of collective courage is something that I've been thinking about as well, in that we should be surrounding ourselves with people who have traits and attributes and skills that we might not inherently possess. I think that's important as well, that, you know, if we want to start to feel comfortable in situations we're normally afraid of, that we need to, you know, be meeting people, we need to be opening up to people who can help us build the courage, you know, that kind of birds of a feather flock together kind of mentality, that you draw upon each other's strengths.
You're right. And I think maybe my talking about honesty just before would help, because I guess if you're in a group of people and you actually like flat out say, I'm anxious about this, or I don't know how to handle this, this is, you know, I feel very pressured by this, then you have all these other people coming in ready to help. And they wouldn't do that if you hadn't like vocalized how you were feeling. Yeah, I think collective courage is definitely something that we need to tap into.
Yeah. Learning to be honest is a form of harnessing courage as well, because it's something that we don't do by, or most people don't do by default. I mean, there are personalities. I've met people who are very, what you see is what you get. But most of us are very conscious about how we're perceived by the outer world, that we tend to adjust our answers or tweak, you know, our responses to people, because we don't want to be seen as, you know, whether it's dumb or like, you know, anxious. So we tend to just put up a facade. But yeah, I hear that all the time, that the best, even in the employment environment, so whether you're applying for a job or you're new to a job, that if you don't know the answer, just say so, right? Just say that, put your hand up, I don't know. You know, I something that you know, I'd like to learn about, but at this point I can't give you an answer, because you know, going the other way and trying to fabricate something that you have no knowledge about actually probably makes it worse. Worse for you.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Have you ever been in situations where you felt that you could have been more honest and it would have worked out better for you?
Yes, maybe. Yes. I'm sure a couple times here and there at work, I certainly didn't have to pretend so much. But I think it just comes with time and practice, because I'm definitely at a point now in like this particular job that I have where I just tell them that I don't know, and then they move along to someone else. So yeah, it just depends on the situation, but you can definitely get better at it.
Yeah. So another big question for you, and I guess, you know, we've again covered some of this in what we've talked about already, but how do you define courage, and what does courage look like specifically to you?
Well, I think courage is really just that act of going for something against all odds. Just simply just going for it, and not maybe sometimes you're unprepared, but like you go for it anyway. And I think that's like, it's courage. And I also thought about courage being different to the individual than to like the people perceiving it. I think courage sometimes looks very shocking for other people. Like when you go and do something that no one expected you to do, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, she did that." But then in that pursuit of the thing, to you, like taking that leap is not shocking to you because you want that thing, like whatever you're searching for, you want it anyway. So it it was playing on my mind that it's like courage can be really clear to you and really unclear and unfathomable to someone else. And that's what's so interesting about it. If they're like, wow, I cannot believe she would actually do that. But for me, it's like, well, of course I want to do it because I want that thing. I actually thought about it when things naturally I'm thinking about merchandise. I was thinking when like a new pair of, Nike shoes drop and then there's all those people lining up from 3 a.m. To me, it's like, oh, that's insane. Like, who would line up that early for a shoe? But they're like, they had the guts to wake up early and line up for that thing because they really want it. So it's kind of that thinking of, yeah, courage to you looks different than courage to someone else. But it really is just that simple act of, going for something and not caring what the obstacles are, or even not thinking about what are the steps to get there. It's just going for it, pretty much.
Like what the Nike slogan is, just do it, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. Total coincidence. Courage, I feel, can be something that you don't see in yourself, but that you actually have it. So in a way, it kind of can't always be defined. Like you can't, like, oh, that person jumping from this job to that job was such an act of courage, but they themselves didn't think so when they did it. They just thought, well, I have no other way to go. I want to just pursue this whole different life from what other people know me as.
Yes.
So, yeah. Anyway.
Oh, that's again a wonderful insight, and I think really relevant to where I want to take this podcast as well, because we often see courage through the lens of these, massive, big, impactful acts, or whether it's, someone choosing to climb a mountain or like, adventure, sail around the world, that kind of thing, when courage actually happens every day in, smaller scales, and we don't always see it, but it's happening. And I think all of us are capable of tapping into it. And you just reminded me of, how I see courage in you as well, because sometimes, you'd be, I don't know, crafting a tweet or, making an Instagram post or something. And we'll be, in the room together, and you'll just, without a thought, put it out there. And I'll suddenly go, you posted that? Whether it's your opinion or your review of, something we've watched or something, and you engage a lot online. And that's so brave to me, because I'm an overthinker, and I worry so much about what people will say if I dare to give an opinion out there. So I admire you for it, because there's this kind of, freedom that you have to just share what you think without worrying about the reaction.
Yeah, I think that's also the perfect analogy as well to what I was saying, is that, or what I was trying to say is that it didn't seem like a courageous thing. It was just more like, I have to share this opinion or it's just going to explode inside of me. So I have to share this tweet. I don't care how many people see it. But for you, as somebody who wouldn't, you're very organized and you do edit your things before you publish them, which is also very good. Yeah, you wouldn't just like post it straight away without having a second thought. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, I guess there's, pros and cons of kind of both approaches to things, and it's a personality thing as well. But I think I can learn a lot from that, because you've said it a few times today that, when you want something enough, you will, overcome every obstacle to get it. And I think that that's a great mindset to have with regards to success, because if you think about what it is that you just simply you cannot live without, or something that you desire so much, then that courage is already in you to attain that thing. You just have to kind of follow the call, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, so another last sort of big question for you. What do you believe pairs well with courage? So I like to think of it, you know me, I love my sort of metaphors and analogies and all that. But if courage is kind of your main course,
Mm.
what would complement it best? So, you know, whether it's a side dish or a glass of wine or something, what other virtue or trait, habit, skill, or a mindset do you believe best complements courage, is best served with your plate of courage?
Oh gosh, can I have a few?
Yes.
Few side ingredients.
Let's have a few side dishes and beverages to go along with it.
Yeah. Well, I think number one for me is a positive mindset, because courage actually it comes when you're faced with scary things. I think it's scary to have courage or to take a leap because it's something that's potentially difficult and it's something that might not work, and it's you can have like a big fear of taking like making the jump. So if you have a positive mindset, I feel that like before you take that leap, even if you fall, even if you don't make it, but you have a positive thing, you're like, okay, well, at least I tried. You kind of have to hype yourself up positively before you do the thing. So I would say positivity is definitely like a big side dish. And then something else I think as well is just joy and like well, I was saying joy, but then a lot of love as well. I think you have to just really love that thing you're going for, because even if you say fall off the cliff, you'll just like start making more steps to like get back to it again, because you still want the thing. You're not going to jump off the cliff and then turn back and never reach for it again. You're going to go for it because it's something that you really want and it's going to make you happy. So yeah, sprinkle a little bit of joy in there. And yeah, I think just a lot of resilience along the way, like just to have the strength to keep getting back up when you fall. So they kind of, I guess, all blend in together. Hopefully, that's a nice little dish there.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a very fulfilling meal, all in all. So thank you. Is there anything as we wrap up now our conversation? It's been a great almost hour chatting with you. But is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners with regards to sort of the themes that we've discussed today?
Yes, actually, I was thinking about a movie that I could recommend.
Of course.
And this podcast, and I realized there's actually not a whole. I mean, there's a lot of movies out there that are about courage, but nothing too explicit, because courage is this massive thing that actually, as we've discovered, has so many definitions and means something different to everybody. So like when you Google courage movies, the ones that come up are, I mean, there are some typical ones like sports movies and things like that. But one really stood out to me, and so I'm going to recommend it. And that was Finding Nemo. And I haven't watched it in a long time, but as I was like reading up about it, I was getting emotional because that came out over 20 years ago now, which is insanity. But yeah, Finding Nemo is obviously the animated Disney Pixar movie where a father and son, clownfish, mind you, it's about like a close bond between a father and son clownfish, and the son gets kidnapped, and the father must find him, and that's the whole movie, Finding Nemo. And so Marlin, the father, he kind of has to go through the whole Great Barrier Reef to find his son, and he meets so many strangers. He asks for help along the way. He encounters all of this danger, but his sole focus is to find his son. And the whole movie is actually about how much courage he has to embark on that journey when he's just been in his little shell, like his little section of the ocean his whole life, and to sort of venture out there and being like such a tiny fish and, being like facing death almost, trying to get to his son, is just so courageous. And for him, again, it's not that he was out here trying to be a hero. He was just trying to find his son. And so I think we can parallel that to all of our life's goals, like that, to never lose focus of what it is, to face any obstacles along the way, to ask for help. He had a companion with him, Dory, who she was that other forgetful fish who maybe is a metaphor for like, letting things go, just, having, being stuck in your self-doubt and like rejection, just letting it go, forget about it, just continue along the journey, just keep swimming. And I just thought that's my courage movie right now, so I'm going to recommend it.
That is awesome. Okay, we're going to have to schedule a movie night to watch that again,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yep.
I think that beautifully encapsulates what we've discussed, and I wouldn't have even thought of it. And
Yeah.
I think, as you went through the synopsis just then, just yes, Nemo's father had that sole focus, and the motivation was love. The motivation was love for his son. And I just think that's so beautiful, because if we approach our life with that motive, doing things because we're motivated by our love for the thing, or for how we can serve others through that thing, that gift that we've been given to serve the world, to serve our community or industry or whatever, if we're motivated by that, every obstacle can be overcome. So, oh gosh, I love that. All right,
Yeah.
we're going to have to get you back on to do more more
Sure.
movie kind of reviews and analysis, because yeah, that's a great story. So really, thank you for sharing that, Ezzy.
You're welcome.
So before we wrap up, I just want to take this moment to give my gratitude to you, to acknowledge you as someone who is wonderful example of courage in my life, and you have always been since the day I met you when you were born.
Oh.
I prayed for a little sister, and God blessed me with one, and I'm so grateful. You have been a rock for me. You have instilled in me this sense of courage that I don't naturally have. But as I spoke about before, that collective courage is important, because you have to be surrounded by people that can bring out the best in you, that can give you strength in moments that you don't have it, and I think we're so blessed that we have each other to complement one another's weaknesses and strengths. So thank you for giving me the courage to keep creating, to do this podcast. I know that I wouldn't be able to launch this project without you, and for all just giving me courage daily, for helping me get out of my negative thoughts and my self-doubts and my fears and anxieties. You've always been that person that I can bounce my ideas off, and you're always got a word of encouragement for me. So I'm eternally grateful, Ezra. Thank you so much for
Thank you so much for
displaying
saying all of
courage.
that. Likewise.
Love you. I love you. And
Love you too.
I will let you give yourself a little plug right now. So where can people connect with you and follow your work?
Sure thing. So my website is just ezramay.com. Very simple. It is a work in progress, but you can find pretty much all of my socials on there. I write some blog posts, and my YouTube channel is all linked. So yeah, check it out.
Cool.
Thanks.
Ezra May, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.